Lights, Khalil. Bismillah. All of the lights, please. Aywa. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. Last week's class, or rather it was this same week, it was Tuesday, Jamal? We were on Tuesday. Tuesday evening, we took several more hadith from the chapter of marriage from the book Bulughul-Maram of Hadith bin Hajar al-Asqalani rahimahullah ta'ala. We mentioned the hadith of Abi Hurairah with regards to the attributes of the woman that you should seek out in marriage, and also the attributes of the husband which you should seek to marry. Then after that we mentioned another hadith of Abi Hurairah radiallahu anhu, in which the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, whenever he made dua for a newlywed, that which he would say and that which he would supplicate for both of them. The hadith that we have today is the sixth hadith in the chapter, hadith number 917. Hadith number 917. The author, Ibn Hajar rahimahullah, he says, وعن عبد الله بن مسعود رضي الله عنه قال علمنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم التشهد في الحاجة إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله ويقرأ 3 آيات رواه أحمد والأربعة وحسنه الترمذي والحاكم. The author, he says, narrated Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he taught us the tashahhud, something to say when we have a need, when we need something done, when we have a ceremonial contract. And that is to say, verily, all praises are for Allah. We laud Him, seek His help, and beg for His forgiveness. We seek refuge in Allah from the evils of our souls. Those whom Allah guides, none can mislead. And those whom Allah misleads, none can guide. I bear witness that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only true deity worthy of worship. And I bear witness that Muhammad is a slave and messenger. Ibn Mas'ud then said, then the Prophet ﷺ would recite 3 verses. The Rasul would recite 3 verses. The author of Hadith bin Hajar al-Asqalani, he says, this hadith has been collected by Imam Ahmad and by the 4. In other words, Imam Abu Dawood, Imam al-Nasa'i, Imam al-Tirmidhi, and Imam Ibn Majah. And al-Tirmidhi rahimahullah declared this hadith to be Hasan, and similarly the great scholar Imam al-Hakim, he declared this hadith to be a fair and acceptable narration. Once again, the hadith says, narrated Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu. Perhaps we'll get a volunteer, someone from the crowd, to read the hadith for us tonight. Bismillah. Again, Fadl Bashir.
وعن عبد الله بن مسعود قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال علمنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن الحمد لله
التشهد في الحاجة
التشهد للحاجة إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله ويقرأ 3 آيات رواه أحمد والأربعة وحسن الترمذي والحاكم.
I said Jazakallah khairan. Right, so we understand this hadith, brothers and sisters. As-San'ani rahimahullah, he says in the commentary on this hadith, والآيات الثلاث يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة إلى قوله رقيبا، والثانية قوله تعالى يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته إلى آخرها، والثالثة قوله تعالى يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا إلى قوله عظيما. وكذا في الشرح وفي الإرشاد لابن كثير عد الآيات في نفس الحديث، إلا أنه جعل الأولى واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به الأرحام الآية، والثانية يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته الآية، والثالثة كما هنا. وقوله في الحاجة عام لكل حاجة ومنها النكاح، وقد صرح به في رواية كما ذكرناه. وأخرج البيهقي أنه قال شعبة قلت لأولياء بإسحاق هذه في خطبة النكاح وغيرها، قال في كل حاجة. The author of San'ani, the commentator of the book in his work Subul Salam, that's the name of his explanation, Nasir, Sheikh Yusuf, Salamullah, Hatim, don't distract the people from the Sunnah. He says that the three ayat that were inexplicitly mentioned in Ibn Mas'ud's statement, he says the first ayah is from Surah An-Nisa, the very first verse from the 4th chapter. And the second ayah is from Surah Al-Imran, and the third is from chapter number 33, Surah Al-Ahzab. And he mentions how one narration states that the verse from Surah An-Nisa is mentioned before the words from Surah Al-Imran. In other words, there's more than one to say it. If a person starts his khutbah, a Friday sermon, a lecture, a marriage, by saying, Ya ayyuha alladhina amnu taqullaha haqqa tuqatihi, then that's permissible. Alaykum salam. If the person says, Ya ayyuha nasu taqu rabbakum alladhi khalaqakum min nafsin wahida, that's also permissible. Everybody understand this? So, As-San'ani, he says, this hadith, or he says, there is another version, or when the Prophet ﷺ says, Fil Hajjah, Ibn Mas'ud said, that the Prophet ﷺ, he taught us this sermon, this way of opening up our hajjah. And the word hajjah in the Arabic language is a need, something that you need. I need to get married. I need to do this business transaction. We need to make Jumu'ah, etc. He says it's a general term. It includes marriage and things besides marriage. He says that there's a narration that states that this khutbah was taught by the Prophet ﷺ and given to the Sahaba when they were getting married. But it also includes anything else. He then says, وَفِيهِ دِلَالَةٌ عَلَى سُنِّيَّةِ ذَلِكَ فِي النِّكَاحِ وَغَيْرِهِ وَيَخْطُبُ بِهَا الْعَاقِلُ لِنَفْسِهِ حَالَ الْعَقْدِ وَهِيَ مِنَ السُّنَنِ الْمَهْجُورَةِ. This hadith proves that it is recommended, not mandatory, but recommended to say this sermon before marriage when performing a marital contract. It's recommended for someone to say, whether it's the groom or the person marrying them off. Everybody got this? Everybody clear on this? Pay close attention. Now, San'ani says this practice is something which is abandoned. It has been forgotten. We know that San'ani, he died approximately at least now 350 years ago. And he said that it was abandoned. And he was from Yemen. He was a scholar. He came from a family, a lineage, pedigree of ilm and nobility and Islamic practice. So what is the case with regards to us here in New York City in 2015? How many people don't know this, don't do this, don't perform this? And how many other acts of the sunnah have been abandoned and neglected? how many practices of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam we don't even know about, or we have an improper understanding of them, let alone abandon and neglect. So the point that we're trying to get here, brothers and sisters, pay very close attention, is that the purpose of learning the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is it for that Sunnah to be implemented to the best of one's ability. To the best of one's ability. Everybody understand this? Khayr, inshallah. And also, is that when you look at the state of the Muslims today, the state of ourselves and the Muslims today, know for sure that there's been problems with the Muslim nation for generations, for centuries. There were things in which the ulama of the past complained about, things that they couldn't change, things they didn't have the ability to change, or things that may have been a greater harm in them attempting or trying to change, and things in which the people are just going to do no matter what you say, no matter what you do. They're just going to do it. So the job of the learned person, of the Muslim, of the Muslim, no matter how much knowledge or how little knowledge you have, is to try to do your best and give advice and teach to the best of your ability. So therefore, we see how this is something that they felt agony and pain for centuries ago, of the Sunnah being abandoned. As-Sanani, he then says, وَذَهَبَتِ الظَّاهِرِيَّةُ إِلَىٰ أَنَّهَا وَاجِبَةٌ. And there's some ulama, and some of these schools of thought that hold the opinion that saying this sermon before marriage is mandatory and not only recommended. The majority of the fuqaha, most of them say that this is recommended, it's preferable, a good thing to do. But there are some of the people of knowledge who say that it is a must. You have to say khutbat al-haja. He then says, وَوَافَقَهُمْ مِنَ الشَّافِعِيَّةِ أَبُو عَوَانَةَ فَتَرْجَمَ فِي صَحِيحِهِ بَابُ وُجُوبِ الْخِطْبَةِ عِنْدَ الْعَقْدِ ويأتي في شرح الحديث التاسع ما يدل على عدم الوجوب. He says, and a great scholar from the Shafi'i school of thought, whose name is Abu Awana, who has a Sahih. He has a book which is called Sahih. Yani, there are other scholars of Hadith who wrote books that were called Sihah or Sahihs, besides Bukhari and Muslim. There were scholars before Bukhari and Muslim who wrote different books in which they considered to be authentic, which they consider to be genuine narrations. If not all of them, most of them, or if not most of them, all of them, at least the practices were considered to be acceptable. Such as Imam Malik bin Anas, rahimahullah. Imam Malik bin Anas, his book Al-Muwatta, which alhamdulillah is translated in English, is one of the most authentic books of hadith. And it's very sad, and we've said this many times here in this masjid and other masjids, the lack of attention that the book of Imam Malik bin Anas gets. And many of the hadith that you find in Bukhari and Muslim are reported from Malik and found in his book. But that's a different topic in itself. Al-Muhim, he made a chapter heading in his book, the obligation of making the khitbah. The obligation of making this sermon at the time of marriage. So therefore, brothers and sisters, the main benefit we get from this hadith, once again, is that it is a good thing. It is the prophetic practice at the time of marriage or anything else for a person to make this khutbah, this sermon. Everybody got that, inshallah? So therefore we learn another etiquette of marriage. And we also learn another ruling of marriage. And the Islamic rulings, the ahkam, the legislation of the Sharia is what? We have things, Sheikh Sadiq, that are obligatory, things that are recommended. Things that are wajib, and things that are masnoon, mustahab. And we don't say sunnah. Yani, even though the word masnoon is similar to it, but it's best to say mustahab. Khair, inshallah. Moving on. The next hadith, the author, he says, and then As-Sanani, not to forget, he says, in the 9th chapter of this hadith, we're going to explain a hadith that proves that it isn't obligatory, it's only recommended. Khair, inshallah. So therefore there's a technical issue. Is it obligatory to say khutbat al-hajatim? Or can you just say, do you accept this man, do you accept this woman, this is the mahr, he's the guardian, etc. Or do you have to make this sermon? Everybody clear on this? The next hadith, the author, he says, وعن جابر رضي الله تعالى عنهما قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا خطب أحدكم المرأة فإن استطاع أن ينظر منها إلى ما يدعوه إلى نكاحها فليفعل. رواه أحمد وأبو داود ورجال ثقات وصححه الحاكم، وله شاهد عند الترمذي والنسائي عن المغيرة، وعند ابن ماجه وابن حبان من حديث محمد بن مسلمة، ولمسلم عن أبي هريرة عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لرجل تزوج امرأة أنظرت إليها؟ قال لا. قال اذهب فانظر إليها. The next hadith that the author mentions, hadith number 7 in the chapter, 918 in the actual book, he says, narrated Jabir ibn Abdullah, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whenever you become engaged to a woman, you place your intentions on a woman, then you should look at that which will be a means of you marrying her and finalizing that engagement. Whoever has the ability to look at his fiancée, he should look at her. This hadith has been collected by Imam Ahmad, Imam Abu Dawood, and its men from the chain of its narration. He says they are all trustworthy and reliable, and Imam Hakim declared it to be authentic. There's another version, or a very similar tradition from the Prophet ﷺ, narrated by Mughira ibn Shu'bah, that At-Tirmidhi and Nasa'i have also reported. Hafiz ibn Hajar then says, Ibn Majah and Ibn Hibban, Abu Hanif, these are all collectors of hadith. They also have another narration narrated by Muhammad ibn Maslama. Muhammad ibn Maslama. He then says, there's another narration that we can find in Sahih Muslim, that Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu narrated that the Prophet ﷺ, once he said to a man who got married, the man told him that I got married to his sister Fulan and Fulana, not Fulan, inshallah Fulana. He said, what? Have you looked at this woman before you married her? The man said, no. The Prophet ﷺ said, go back and look at her. Go back and look at her. Khair, inshallah. The author, he says here, وَتَمَامُهُ قَالَ جَابِرٌ. Before we move on and read the commentary of Sanani, we say, these narrations all prove one thing, Khalid and Wadud. They all prove one thing. They prove that it is from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ to look at the woman that you plan and intend to marry. The lesson that we learn as Muslims is that Muhammad's way, not your culture, not your family practice, what's customary, what's okay, what's not okay, but Muhammad's way is that when you have intentions on marrying a sister, you should look at her. And also, the woman, she should look at the man that she intends to marry. This is what we benefit from these narrations. Ahmed, is it obligatory to look at her? Is it recommended to look at her? What would you say? You're teaching this class, Ibrahim, of course. Huh? You're teaching this class. What do you want to say if your students ask you? Yeah, Sheikh. You say it's obligatory. That's what you would say. What would you say, Omar? That this is what the Prophet said. Someone else. Sheikh Yusuf. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Alhamdulillah. It would have to be recommended, because if it was obligatory and it would have been a fard, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam would have said that this is a must.
Tahir, anyone else? Just recommend it.
It's obligatory.
The Prophet said, look, he commends. Nasir, what would you say?
Strongly recommended.
Strongly recommended. Allahu Akbar. We would say, Ibrahim, that's not even what you tell your students. That's secondary. That's not the first move. That's not the first step. The first step is understanding the hadith. This is the Prophet's way. Recommended, obligatory, that is what? That's a next issue. We crawl before we walk. We don't leap before we crawl. Do we understand this hadith? What's meant by look at her? What's meant by a woman that you intend to marry, that you're engaged to, they have agreed to you, you have to sit down with her, etc. So the first step is for us to establish, strongly recommended, preferable. The first step, this is very important, brothers and sisters, The very first step is this is Muhammad's way. So you're going to minimize and cut out, oh no, you can't look at her brother because Imam Fulan said this and he said that. This is very important, and this is a reality. This is a reality. Imam Fulan, his madhab said you cannot look at her. Sheikh Fulan in this country, he said you cannot look at her in the feast. The first step, Ibrahim, stay with me, the very first step is that we have established in the authentic hadith that this is the way of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. Everybody understand that? So before we get into is it wajib or not, we have proven and we have made a solid foundation now. A solid foundation that's irrefutable. We have not one, not two, not three, 4 different narrations of Muhammad commanding the companion to look at that woman. It's crucial. Because you make something that's wajib, it's obligatory, you have to do this. You tell someone at a masjid or whoever, and you haven't even proven that it's sunnah yet. So now for they can argue, they can debate. No, my imam, no. But I've come and I've established Muhammad's way based off of the authentic hadith. Everybody understand this? And that there lies no doubt. That makes it easier for the person to accept it now. Because I've scientifically proven to you. We have proven, traced it back to Muhammad, is that this was his practice. Whether it was wajib or recommended. So we don't start off by saying something wajib or recommended, or just like, we don't start off like that. We start off by establishing. Is it even legislated? Is it from the deen?
Yes.
You understand? This is, I can't explain in words, this concept, how much wisdom it is in doing things like this. You understand, Hatim? You agree it makes sense? Or right. We want to get into it, is it obligatory or not? That's step what? That's step 2. Okay, inshallah. So therefore, the main benefit that we take from these narrations, once again, is that it is from the sunnah to look at a woman that you have intentions on marrying. It is from the sunnah, it's recommended, at least recommended, for a woman to look at the man that she has intentions on marrying. Everybody got this? Clear on this? Khair, inshallah. As-San'ani, he says, وَتَمَامُهُ قَالَ جَابِرٌ فخطبت جارية فكنت أتخبأ لها حتى رأيت منها ما دعاني إلى نكاحها فتزوجتها. And before we move on, we mentioned earlier in the khutbah, Jabir ibn Abdullah marrying an older woman because of his daughters and someone to look after his daughters. That was a slip of the tongue. It was his sisters, his little sisters. This was pointed out to me by Brother Al-Amin. It was his sisters, not his daughters. Right? He says that the hadith, he says the tamam, the full version of this hadith, it states, and this helps you understand the hadith, as we explained last week and before, the reason behind the hadith, the story behind the hadith, what the narrator did before and after the hadith. Jabir said, I married a young woman. He says, and listen with his little translation, he says, فَكُنْتُ أَتَخَبَّأُ لَهَا. He says, I used to hide and I used to look at her until I saw that which made me want to marry her. I have no doubt about it, this is the girl that I want. Because I saw what I needed to see. This part of the hadith is even further elucidation now on what's meant by looking at her. So no imam, no one can say you cannot look at the girl. And there are many cultures like this, to this day. I have friends from countries, I won't mention those countries. They say in my country, where I come from, wallahi, you don't see your wife until you consummate the marriage. You don't even know what she looks like. She doesn't know what you look like. Wallahi, I'm that serious. True story. But shit, some cultures like this, he says you don't even know what she looks. She doesn't even know the man that's going to be sleeping with her tonight. She doesn't even know what it looks like. She just met him for the first time. So we see your culture, and we have the Sunnah culture. You choose which one you want. Everybody understand this? So perhaps somebody may say, well, no, hadith doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean actually look at her. It means, the hadith means, get to know the girl through her family. Somebody may try to interpret the hadith to mean that. Somebody may say, well, the hadith, it really means get a good wife. We say that interpretation is false. And the proof that it's false, not only is it against the outward clear language and what's apparent and obvious, but it's going against the practice of the narrator of the hadith, who understood that which you didn't understand. who took the guidance of Muhammad ﷺ and understood he had a direct link. So we see the importance of the sciences of hadith, as we said before, in many, many classes. To have a proper understanding of the hadith, look at the story behind or after the hadith, before or after. The companion divorced his wife, he went to the Prophet ﷺ. The female companion, she said this, he says, take his money. Take his money. Take the money that you need for you and your children. Is it permissible for a woman to steal her husband's money? Somebody may say that. La. She said to my husband, he says, he's a little cheap. He was a little tight. He didn't give me what I needed. He says, خُذِي مَا يَكْفِيكِ وَوَلَدِكِ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Take the wealth that is sufficient for you. Allahu Akbar. Hammer time, huh? Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. He said, take the wealth that is sufficient for you and your child in a good, honorable manner. But if you just read that part of hadith, you say, khalas, I can take from my husband's wallet. This is what the Prophet says, what the Sunnah says. Everybody understand this? Very important concept. Khayr, inshallah, moving on. The author, he then says, وَلَفْظُهُ أَنَّهُ قَالَ لَهُ قَدْ خَطَبَ امْرَأَةً أُنْظُرْ إِلَيْهَا فِي الْأَحْرَى أَنْ يُؤْدَمَ بَيْنَهُمَا. The next narration that the author mentioned from Mughira ibn Shu'bah, that the Prophet he said that this man married a woman, or he says خَطَبَ امْرَأَةً, he was engaged to a woman. And the Prophet ﷺ said, look at her. Because if you look at this woman that you have intentions on marrying, it will bring more love and affection between you. It will be a means of having a stronger bond. Everybody got this? He then goes on to mention the rest of the ahadith. He says, دلت الأحاديث على أنه يندب للرجل تقديم النظر إلى من يريد نكاحها وهو قول جماهير العلماء. He says these ahadith, everybody pay close attention please, he says these narrations, they prove that it is permissible and that it's preferable for a man to look at the woman that he has intentions on marrying. That it's permissible to look at the woman that he has intentions on marrying. And this is the opinion of the majority of the ulama. Not all of the ulama, but he said the majority. Who are they? Which madhab? What did Shaykh Ibn Taymiyyah say? What did Imam Ahmad say? He said the majority of the ulama. That is what? Recommended and not obligatory. He then says, وَالنَّظُرُ إِلَى الْوَجْهِ وَالْكَفَّيْنِ لأنه يستدل بالوجه على الجمال أو ضده والكفين على خصوبة البدن أو عدمها. He says, now the first step, Ibrahim, is the ruling on looking at the woman. The majority of the ulama, not all of them, they say that it's recommended. Step number 3 is what are you allowed to look at? What can you see from among this woman? That's the next step in fiqh. You don't just attack it all at once, step by step. Systematic process of understanding the hadith and understanding the fiqh. Systematic approach. He says, and that what you look at, or you're allowed to look at, is the face and the hands. The face and the hands. Why? He says, because by a woman's face, it is used as a proof for her beauty or the absence of her beauty. The face is the, he says, that is the indicator, is she pretty or not. This is what the author says. And he says, by looking at the hands, you get a chance to look at a figure of the rest of her body. She has soft skin, she has very large hands, she has very small, dainty, petite type hands, she has hairy knuckles. No, this is important. This is reality. This is a reality. La shak. I'm not being funny. A lot of people, if they have a lot of hair, they have hair on their hands. Or she may have hair on her arms. If you see that the tips of her wrists are hairy, what heck is that? If a woman takes care of her hands, her nails, or they said nails are tight. Her nails are clean, nice, pedicure, manicure, whatever you want to call it. Her hands are nice. Then in most cases, what heck is that? Her feet and the rest of her body. So this is from the hikmah, he says, of looking at the hands and the face. As-San'ani, he then says, now that's one opinion, and that's one branch of that opinion. Moving on, he says, وَقَالَ الْأَوْزَاعِي. Al-Awza'i, the great scholar of Sham of the 2nd century, who's from the greatest of the ulama of that era, he said, يَنْظُرُ إِلَى مُغَاضِيَ اللَّحَمِ. He says, no, he just doesn't look at her hands and her face. he should look at the fleshy parts of her body. That's what he says. Her build, the places of her meat. That's what the literal translation says. وَقَالَ دَاوُد. Another great scholar, Dawood ibn Ali al-Zahiri of the 3rd century, he said, يَنْظُرُ إِلَى جَمِيعِ بَدَنِهَا. He's to look at all of her body, everything. So we have 3 opinions of the people of knowledge. The first opinion is that he looks at her what? Face and hands. Second opinion, yani, in other words, as if a person were to say, he's to look at her, with, let's say, quote unquote, normal clothes on. Or as some of the ulama explain, what she wears in her house, in front of the other mahrams in her family. She doesn't walk around naked in front of her father or her brother, but she's not going to wear a full overgarment. Whether it's a skirt, pants, or something like this. And he gets a chance to see the normal shape of her body. And this is very beneficial for us brothers and sisters. If you're allowed to look at this, a woman that you want to marry, then how can you go outside of the house and wear something that shows people the fleshy parts of your body? This proves that it's impermissible for a woman to wear tight jeans outside of her home without no overgarment on. Because if she has on tight jeans, it's on her legs, her thighs, her legs, and the rest of her body, you can see. So this goes to show us the understanding of hijab. That the hijab must be what? Loose and not tight-fitting. And not as some ignorant people say, as long as your skin is covered up, you can be a track racer or a swimmer, or you can wear this and you can wear that. La. The garment must be loose and cannot be tight-fitting. And the proof that it has to be loose is this kalam right here. Azai said, look at the fleshy parts of her. But how can you do that if she wears it outside? I know what she looks like already. We go to college together. We study. I seen what she's built like. It's very important here. How many Muslims do we know, unfortunately, wear tight clothes out of the house? وَلَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. So the men have to fear Allah. If you have a wife, if you have a daughter, if you have someone that you're in charge of, you have to advise her, Yaqi. You can't be soft and weak. You have to tell her, you have to fear Allah. You cannot dress like that outside of the house. My mother, my sister, my aunt, my wife. It's haram. It is displeasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Displeasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's shameful. It's shameful. So let us, as the Prophet ﷺ would say, فَلِيُبَلِّغُ الشَّاهِدْ مِنْكُمُ الْغَائِبِ. The one who's here, let him pass on those who are not there. So once again, we said, and we've given class on this in this masjid years ago, it is haram, impermissible for a Muslim sister to wear clothing that is tight and she's being seen by someone that's not her. Haram. Can't do it. And the law does not like it. Moving on. So we have 3 opinions. The first is looking at the hands and the face, and that's an issue in itself. Perhaps a person would say, this also shows us that a woman has to cover her hands and her face. Whereas if you're allowed to see that with the intentions of marriage, that means that her hands and her face are normally covered up. And you can't see that. And as we've said before, Hatim, from one thing, learn how many things?
million.
Not a million. That's not what we said. You could learn a million, but that's not what we said.